Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another video. Of course, following last night's very disappointing defeat to Spurs, thought it was time for another long form discussion with an interesting guest. First time guest on the channel, he is the co-owner of SW6 Daily, a really fast growing Chelsea site. Also, he is a freelance sport and business writer. Jai Mcintosh, welcome to the channel, mate. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Very kind intro. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Obviously, following our first conversation with Mr. Alex Goldberg on his podcast, I think it's about time that we sat down and talked together for a long discussion about Chelsea. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely urge anyone who hasn't listened to that podcast, the Byline podcast. We went on Alex Goldberg's podcast last week and really interesting discussion. And I think it's cool to have you on now because we've had, two or three games? I think it's 3 games, isn't it? Because we recorded it before the Barnsley game. So it's been 3 games since then and a lot has happened, ups and downs. So there's a lot of discussion to be had. Obviously, and depressingly, the first one we have to discuss is, of course, last night. Your feelings on it, because to me it was really frustrating. I was up till quite late writing an article for All Things Chelsea on it because I think my biggest frustration with last night was our lack of sort of confidence or expression in attack. What was your take on the defeat last night?
Yeah, well, firstly, I read your article. I love what All Things Chelsea do as well. They do very similar things to what we do at SW6 Daily, so I'd obviously recommend checking them out. But yeah, it was frustrating. It was really weird, actually. I thought we were really strong first half. I actually had a tweet planned that was saying, I thought Chilwell fit like a glove. I was really confident with Mendy's performance. I was really enjoying HUDSON-ODOI being a bit more confident. I was liking what I was seeing. And then the second half, it was just like a different team. I don't really understand. And I think, players are to blame, the managers are to blame. I mean, unfortunately, it come down to penalty shootout and Mason missing, and you and I both tend to back him on social media because he seems to unfairly get a lot of criticism. However, last night, I think it's probably fair that he does come in for some criticism, as does Lampard. I think HUDSON-ODOI, whilst he was good, there were a few passes he could have made that would have changed the game, or if he had finished his opportunities when he had them, that would have made a big difference. But it's all ifs and buts, really. But I just don't understand why we can't kill off games. I expected when Kante came on to calm things down, which it looked like it done, and to play the game through. But there was the final few minutes. We're not even pushing to attack once we've conceded, and it looked like we'd lost from there. And as soon as we conceded, I just thought, well, I think the game's gone. Spurs look ready to take penalties. They've got some very good penalty takers. We do too, but I don't think at the same level they did. And overall, it's just a bit of an unfortunate result, and it's not something that we needed because the first half was so positive and all the reaction was so good, and the club seems very bipolar almost, in the sense that as soon as something good happens, everyone's really happy and the fan base is all together. And as soon as something slightly negative happens or we concede a goal, there's divisions and splits and everyone starts arguing again. And it's a real shame because if we'd have beaten Spurs, it would have been a big result. It would have kept us in a competition that we really should be aiming to go far in. Werner getting his first goal, Mendy having a solid first performance, as did Chilwell. And I think that would have been really nice. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Do you think that first half was quite deceiving? Because it seemed to me like Jose was just setting out to do what he's done against us before, just go for a low block, hope you get something on the break. I mean, I don't even think they were trying to break on us, to be honest. They weren't really pressing us. So Cover and Jorginho, all right, looked quite dominant in the first half, but they were never pressed to a great extent. And do you almost think, in terms of really praising that first half, when Spurs came out for the second half and they were pressing us, we were exposed. So, was that first half quite sort of deceiving? And actually, we weren't that good, to be honest.
It's a tough one. I mean, I still think we were quite good, and Spurs are going to play that way under Mourinho. That's what he does. So you can only kind of play what's in front of you, and we haven't really looked that impressive all season. So to look relatively positive was something that we should value. But I think you're right, actually, with those two in the pivot, they're not my preferred players in that position, whilst they're individually really strong. But yeah, as soon as the press came on, we looked terrified. And Spurs are a really good team, and I think they're slightly underrated. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to compete. Last season we beat them twice, and now you look what happened. It looked like Mourinho's getting under Lampard's skin. The press was almost intimidating some of our players, and we just lost our confidence, and we couldn't keep our bottle, which is what the top teams are able to do. And we're not there yet. It's a work in progress, but yeah, I think things like that happen. It's football, but maybe a bit deceiving. I can understand where you're coming from.
I think it was very frustrating to me, as you pointed out, about sort of that. I think it was after 1-1, and we were in added time, and Chelsea, for the first time in the second half, had a bit of possession. But it was just so passive and safe possession. I was like, this is a cup game, just the lack of attacking intent in that second half. You felt that, yeah, right, we're getting pressed and they're committing bodies forward, but you thought with them doing that, surely Werner and Hudson-ODOI will start to find space. We saw that briefly when Tammy and Kante came on. Suddenly we had a bit more pace going in behind, and there was that opportunity two times. I think it was for Mason Mount to pass. I think it was it Werner or Tammy? I can't remember who it was. I think to play in. Of course, Callum's pass should have passed to Tammy as well before he skied it over. But that was my biggest frustration. It was actually defensively. Once again, individually, I think the centre backs had pretty strong games. I think, you get that lapse in concentration, but, everyone banging on about the defence, to me, it's like, well, if you put yourself in that position where we just sort of like are staggering to the end, the momentum swing, and we're just allowing ourselves to do that, a team like Spurs will get those opportunities, especially when you're getting players like Harry Kane and Lucas Moura, and Lamela had a strong night. Do you agree that you think it's like I think Chelsea, with our defensive frailties, we've got to go on the front foot. It just annoys me when I see us being so passive.
100%. I said this at the start of the season, that we are not going to win games if we're delicate and we sit back. I think Chelsea need to make sure that they're on the front foot, they're attacking, they're confident. I'd much rather win games 4-2 than win 1-0, really, because I can't see that happening. I don't see us keeping clean sheets that often. Don't get me wrong, Mendy changed it for me, and it's only one game, and there's a lot more to come, but I expect our results to improve just because of the keeper alone. I also planned on tweeting out yesterday that I think Zuma really showed that he is the first choice centre back. It's really, really good to see that he's sort of coming into his own, and he's sort of commanding. And I actually didn't think it was anything to do with the centre backs necessarily. I think we're just quite soft centred, and we've spoken about people like Declan Rice before, or anyone else that people want to bring into that conversation. But, Jorginho, Kovacic and Kante, to some extent, that sometimes they're not going to be able to deal with consistent pressure. I think Kante probably can do that best, and Kovacic is able to beat the press of his dribbling. And in terms of exploiting space, well, there is space there. But we know with Mourinho and we know with Tottenham that they're going to be defensively quite astute, and that's not always been the case, but you expect it to be of a Mourinho side. And I said this before, with players like Werner and players like Hudson-ODOI, they will get there if you play a risky pass, or when there's space to exploit. There's no one better in Europe really than Timo Werner, based off last season as well, besides obviously Messi and Lewandowski, but it's a different conversation. So what I want to see is, I said this again, with Jorginho especially, he has the ability to play some of the best passes in world football, and I don't think he does it enough. I just don't, and I think Timo Werner will get there 9 times out of 10. I think Hudson-ODOI will also make it there more often than not. But yeah, it's frustrating, and I think what it shows fans is that we need someone in the middle of the park that's really quite physical and quite demanding, because that's what the Premier League is. And let's not forget that not too long ago, Spurs were in a Champions League final with pretty much all the players they have now. They're not a bad squad. They're a very, very strong squad with world-class players. Harry Kane is a world-class striker. I also think Son is a world-class player. So they have these players within the squad. They got Lloris, who's a World Cup winner, who still starts and is the captain. That attitude permeates the side. Mourinho, regardless of what you think, he's a serial winner. So there's an attitude and confidence in Spurs that I think now they're sort of perceived as slight underdogs because of the poor results last season. That will benefit them more so. And I think we looked intimidated in the second half, and I just didn't see the confidence that we had in the first half, and it's a real shame. and we don't have players like Eden Hazard anymore who is able to change games on his own. We don't have that. You expect Pulisic to maybe do that, but it's not there at the moment. But I do think that the main thing to focus on is the positives of the first half. Let's enjoy that bit of the performance. And I think fans really need to remember as well is that we're not the team we expect to be just yet. We have key players that are injured and not playing. If Ziyech and Pulisic are on that pitch, it's a different game. It's a different game. I think we win 3-0 because Pulisic inherently wants to attack and Ziyech wants to see the passes to exploit the space. It works perfectly, but those two players aren't there at the moment. So we've just got to be patient and give it time.
Yeah. Do you think, because of course, Twitter is always the most hyperbolic place, and I naturally just shut off my phone last night. Especially after Mason missed that penalty, I just was same. I tweeted out a couple of things and retweeted a couple of things from, I think one of your tweets, one of Alex's tweets, and some others that were like sort of looking at the wider picture of things. But a lot of scrutiny now on Lampard, and that's, natural. I don't think I've been, the article I wrote, the videos I've been making recently, I think, it's fair. There has to be that balance, right? You don't go overboard in terms of your criticism and saying it's the end of the world, but also don't go into blind faith, because that can be dangerous as well. Do you think Lampard can fix Chelsea's problems? I mean, I say that hesitantly because we are 5 games into a season, the points you've just made, but I think I'd be disingenuous if I say there aren't concerns for me, more just in the attacking sense. As I said before, it's that's the one thing I want from this team, and I think that's the concern. Do you think Lampard has it in him to fix the problem so far?
I don't know. I think he's deserved the chance to try. I think we will have to give him the season at least. And I think that he's fully aware of what it is to be a Chelsea manager, which is, something that even though the results aren't showing is quite clear. He knows what his role is. He knows how it is, and he's been there. He's done that. He's seen managers come and go. He knows that we don't keep managers for longer than 3 seasons. I can't remember the last time we've done that. And he knows that Chelsea are in a results business. We're not in the same position as a team like Everton, where they're willing to give managers slightly longer because they know that to reach the point that they need to be, they need to give it time. Whereas Chelsea have always expected instant success. And when you bring in a lot of players, the results need to follow as well. But it's not that easy sometimes. And we've had no pre-season or no real pre-season. And we have a lot of new players that it takes time for those things to gel. And I think Lampard deserves the time and the respect to give it a go. But on the flip side, he also should come under criticism when things don't go right. And I think he'll be the first to criticise himself and admit that he's being naive or is still learning. But then, there's a small section of fans, and I really can understand them, that are saying, well, look at the money we've spent, and there's managers like Pochettino out there. And why would you not get him and bring him in? Because quite frankly, Pochettino would do better currently than what Lampard's doing. So it's just one of those things. But Lampard deserves the chance, and I think give him the season, and then we'll reevaluate at the end of it. That's the best we can do, and just support the lads when you can.